Hello, BookTube. It's Friday. That means Friday Reads. I'm going to show you an ambitious TBR for the weekend, and the only reason it's ambitious is not ambitious in page count. I read, for those of you who are new to the channel, I read very fast and I read all the time, and I don't sleep much, so I have more time to read just in general. But I recently, the end of this week has seen a flurry of writing assignments, of writing stuff that's just cropped out of nowhere, and I'm not complaining at all. It'll be fun stuff to do, and it'll be lucrative. But it comes with tight deadlines, and also because of its nature, I will be dealing with editors I don't usually deal with, who may need hand-holding. So editors are very needy little creatures. My regulars don't need any hand-holding. My regular editors, they know perfectly well that I'm not going to turn in anything that needs their attention. They can just format it and use it. I like to turn in clean prose. In a small typo here and there, yes, but not an editor's nightmare where they get something and they need to work on it. Editors have enough work to do. So, but one way or another, new editors might not know that, might want to need emailings back and forth or whatnot, so who knows. So I'm anticipating losing large chunks of time in the weekend to writing. But even so, I have a stack of books here that I want to show you that I will be reading this weekend, and I think that most of them are stragglers from August. Most of them are August books that I haven't read. There are quite a few August books that I haven't read, and I'm just, as I get finished copies or as I get reminders, I go to them. And the first one is this. It's by Earl Swift, and it's Chesapeake Requiem. The finished copy has this beautiful wraparound cover. There's a blue crab, but there is the fishing vessel. So this is, see that? The subtitle's right there, but the subtitle is also on this wraparound with a crab on it. I think that's just lovely. And this is the story of Tangier Island, Virginia, here in the United States, which is a spit of land in the Chesapeake Bay that is being eroded by the elements, and it is the home to a fishing fleet. I think fewer than 500 people that run this fishing fleet, and the confluence of a number of environmental factors make it a bed for crabbing that is almost unique on the Chesapeake, and the whole community, the whole livelihood is facing imminent extinction. And this is a book about that. The author goes and talks with these people, and surveys the industry, surveys the world that they are living in, as sort of the last glimpse of it, sort of commemorizing it in book form, because the next generation at Tangier Island, regardless of what its world is like, its world will not be like this. So probably a little bit somber reading, but I can't wait to read it. And then the next one will definitely be somber reading. This is by William Hazelgrove. I haven't got to it yet. It's Shots Fired in Terminal 2. It's a book about a man who was caught in a shooting incident in public. But it's also a wider meditation on those incidents, which those of you who don't live in the United States will now associate with America. We have a mass shooting, which is, I think, very cynically characterized as more than 4 people dead, or something like that. We're not counting the shooter. The shooter usually dies as well, but I think it's ridiculous to quantify things like that. The point is that people go nuts with guns in America every day. And some of the, yeah, man, free or die. Yep, you're not overcompensating for anything. Sorry about that. The incidents are in the news all the time, and all of America just walks on eggshells waiting for the next big one. We don't even consider 5 people shot dead in America in a shooting incident like this to be big anymore. We wait for the big one. We wait for multiple double digits. And this book is about that. Let me see what we got here. On January 6, 2017, a lone gunman took 5 lives and wounded 8 people in Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International Airport. William Hazelgrove was there with his wife and children, exemplifying the American experience of mass shootings and gun violence. This is his story. So he tells the story of what it was like to be in an incident, and then extrapolates from there. There's one moment that I just dipped in and read it that's incredible, where the whole of the terminal is deserted and everyone's hiding, and he is desperately running through the terminal, and the reason why he's not being approached is because people think he's the gunman. I will read this and we will see. And then the next one is a Revolutionary Era biography of a figure that I don't think I've ever read a full-length biography of this person before. He's a kind of a lost founding father of America. The author of the book posits that had he not died prematurely, had he lived to see the revolution succeed here in America, he would probably have been a gigantic force in American politics. And I think that might be right. It's Founding Martyr by Christian de Spigna. It's the life and death of Joseph Warren, who was a very influential politician in Boston, made all the rounds, worked the crowds, worked the taverns, worked the secret networks that were essential to the revolution even beginning, much less succeeding. He and Samuel Adams were indefatigable in getting the revolution off the ground, not in terms of rhetoric and not in terms of drilling men on Cambridge Common, but in terms of getting person by person, merchant by merchant, farmer by farmer, importer by importer, getting people reconciled with the idea at all of rebelling against the greatest power in the world. And he had a whole bunch of success. This author, the promotional material for the book, says that the author has uncovered a huge amount of original information. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Warren has been weirdly understudied, and the main reason being that he was dead before the whole thing started. He died at the Battle of Bunker Hill in 1775. So he didn't get a chance to do anything. God knows what we'd be talking about Joseph Warren if not. If he hadn't died at Bunker Hill, if he'd lived, God knows what we'd be saying about him. Could easily have been president. Could easily have been the first president. Washington was chosen in large part because there was no one else to touch his prestige. Warren could have done that and not been a military man at the same time. It was a tremendous gamble that cast a long shadow over the United States, over all subsequent history. So I know quite a bit about Joseph Warren, but reading a popular biography that pulls all the strands together, I don't think I've ever done that. And I can't wait to do it. And the next one was also a popular biography of a person that I once was not all that interested in until I actually read a book for review and became interested. This is by Charles Cassillo, and it is Marilyn Monroe, The Private Life of a Public Icon. And I would not have cared about this book if it weren't for Marilyn in Manhattan, a biography that I read for the Christian Science Monitor, reviewed for the Christian Science Monitor a year ago, that showed me I know it's cliche, but it showed me aspects of Marilyn Monroe that I had not paid any attention to, and just somehow thought didn't exist. Marilyn Monroe, the person. And this is more of the same. This is a biographical treatment that deliberately looks past the glamour of Hollywood. So we shall see. We shall see. The next one I'm hugely looking forward to. I've had the advanced copy for a while and just haven't got to it. Now I have the beautiful finished copy, so I will be diving in this weekend. This is the Sea Queen. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Got the deckled edges and the beautiful cover. This is the continuation of Linnea Hartsoiker's first book, The Half-Drowned King, which is about a man named Ragnvald who is prophesied to one day command all of Norway, and this is in the Viking era. And at the time, it doesn't seem like those prophecies have a chance of coming true. He's attendant on a much more powerful man and is a kind of a vagabond himself. And this is the story of his sister, Svanhild. Mostly. I mean, Ragnvald is in here too, and he's a main character, but this is the story of her and the adventures that she has in the Viking era. And I haven't got to it yet. I feel terrible about that. I was the Half-Drowned King's biggest fan, and I know I'm going to love this. This author probably had all of these books severely plotted out and considered in her mind before she wrote the first book. So I don't think I'm going to experience much in the way of a dramatic dropping off. And the next book I'm going to read this weekend is a reread. It's one we saw on this channel. It's How Fiction Works by James Wood in this beautiful new 10th edition trade paperback, that just with the deckled edges and the French flaps, and more information too. This is a different expanded book from the one that I read 10 years ago, in which he studies the state of fiction. He studies the operations of fiction, how characters work, how plot develops, how authors grapple with themes. And that makes it sound very programmatic, and it's not. It's done through a very artistically sensitive set of sensibilities. so it's wide ranging too. I remember that from originally. It's got 20% more content now, but even the original book was very wide ranging. You never quite know when he's talking about the sideways drift of a narrative or allegorical implications or whatnot. You never know what he's going to come up with from a capacious lifetime of reading. So it's bound to fascinate me all over again. And then the last book I'll do for today is also a reread, and it's of a classic. It's a book that I read, also read for the Christian Science Monitor, also reviewed in the Christian Science Monitor, and loved it, just loved it to pieces. And I recently got the trade paperback, which has a blurb by yours truly. And this is this. It's Matthias Bostrom's From Holmes to Sherlock. And it's a great, big, wonderfully written book about the Sherlock Holmes character. It's not Holmes pastiche, it's not fiction. It's the story of how Holmes entered into the public consciousness and all the different forms that the character and his life and his world have taken since then. Stage, screen, film, the whole, all kinds of implications. So, you've got Jeremy Brett in here, you've got Basil Rathbone, you've got Benedict Cumberbatch, you've got Robert Downey Jr., you've got all sorts of spin-offs and pastiches and adaptations for TV and for movies, and it's all told so well. It's the way it's told is a perfect balance between backstage gossip and insider information, so that you read about triumphs and litigations behind the scenes, but you never feel like you're reading stuff that you shouldn't be reading. You never feel like you're reading gossip. You feel like you're reading a definitive history in the secondary life of an archetypal fictional character, and it has blurbs on the back from Michael Saylor in the Wall Street Journal, from Nicholas Meyer, he of University of Iowa fame, and me, Steve Donahue, and it's a named blurb, which I'm obviously not in reviewing for the money. I am in it for the blurbs. I'm in it to be part of the conversation. I love that feeling so much, being part of the conversation. And for the blurbs. And when I'm in blurbs, I like two things. One, I like to be named. It's fine if it just says Christian Science Monitor. I want the world in general to know that the Christian Science Monitor's book coverage is fantastic. We cover lots and lots of books, more than you don't think. You don't associate book coverage with the Christian Science Monitor, and yet we cover lots and lots of books, and a lot of our reviewers are really good. So that's just fine. But I like a named blurb. Because then my name is on the book. Throughout the entire run of this edition, and I like that, especially if my name is with other names that I happen to know, and those are the two things that I like. I like a name blurb, and I like good company. And in this, I'm in company with Nicholas Meyer, who I guess since I'm mentioning his name, I might as well show you his face. What I want you to do is look at this picture, and then take 10 years off it. That is Nicholas Meyer, right there. Take 10 years off that face. Thin out the cheeks, lengthen the hair. You get quite a good-looking young man. And that is it. That is my my Friday reads. We have Chesapeake Requiem. We have Shots Fired in Terminal 2. We have Founding Martyr, about Dr. Joseph Warren. We have Marilyn Monroe, Private Life of a Public Icon. We have The Sea Queen, which I'm now realizing very belatedly is the only fiction on the list. We have From Holmes to Sherlock, a reread. And we have How Fiction Works by James Wood, which will be mostly a reread, although it's got lots of new stuff in it. So that'll be keeping me busy until Monday morning. And as usual with Friday Reads, I'm curious to know what you're doing, what you're reading this weekend, what you're hoping to read this weekend. But in the meantime, I'll wrap this up. But I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.